All right, I'm going to pop it live now.
Hi everyone, and thanks for joining us for our Access to HE session. We're really glad you could make it. We'll be starting the session in a few moments' time, but in the meantime, if you do have any questions at any point during the session, you can pop them in the live Q&A box, which is to the right of the screen. Hi, and welcome to those who've just joined us. Thank you for joining our Access to HE presentation. This session is going to be presented by Michelle, who is our Director of Access to HE. Throughout the session, please feel free to use the Q&A box to the right of your screen and ask any questions you have. We'll do our best to answer them at the end of the session. I'll now pass you over to Michelle to get the session started. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, Amy. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Lovely to see you all and welcome to today's session. So let's go into our presentation. Oh, if only it would move along. There we go. So this is a presentation on our Access to Higher Education courses, primarily looking at how we are going to get into UCEN Manchester or into other universities of your choice. So within today's presentation, we want to develop your understanding of access to higher education and curriculum, and look at that kind of access courses that may well support you in actually achieving that. To introduce you to the breadth of diplomas that we have within Access, to understand some of the funding options that are available for an Access course, to look at what some of our students say about us and some of our success stories, and to answer any questions that you may well have about an Access to Higher Education diploma. So an Access to Higher Education course is a level 3 diploma that can be completed within 10 months. It's specifically designed for 19-plus-year-old students who actually don't have a level of a qualification in order to gain entry into university. It will also be appropriate for anybody who actually has a level 3 qualification, but maybe they're not relevant to maybe a change in your career choice. So, for example, you may well have qualified in business studies, but you now want to be a nurse. And also relevant knowledge and skills for a chosen career pathway that may well take you on a completely different route that you maybe have always had inside and you never knew anything about until maybe quite recently. So we offer a range of different diplomas and a number of different courses. We are one of the largest providers across the country for access to higher education provision, offering courses in business, law, politics and society, careers and social and community work, medicine, dentistry and pharmacy, combined science and medical science, nursing and midwifery, engineering, radiography, orthotics and prosthetics. Yes, that is a bit of a mouthful. English, writing and media, social science, health and physiotherapy, teacher training, hospitality and leisure and tourism, veterinary science and zoology. New for September 2021, how time flies, we have environmental and urban studies, computing and digital and forensic science. That is our offer at level 3, but we also have a level 2 offer as well, and this affords students the opportunity to also gain their English and maths alongside a pre-access course to gain them that confidence a little bit further. So we offer pre-access courses in business, humanities, health professions or science and engineering pathways, and they are specifically designed to lead into pathways on our access courses. So a wide range of things that we could possibly offer. It may well be that you have a career in mind, you maybe can't necessarily see that there. Please feel free to put that in the chat bar and we'll have a chat about that as well at the end. So funding for an access to higher education course, there are a number of different options. So for example, if you're going to be 19 or above at the time that you start your level 3 course with us, you can maybe take advantage of an advanced learner loan that's available via the UK government. Now that loan can be used to pay some or all of your tuition fees, meaning that you can also improve your knowledge and skills without worrying about having to pay up front. You'll be then making those repayments of the loan, similar to kind of like many things that we take loans for, so it's based on earnings. They're taken then directly out of your salary by your employer, or you can take them yourself as part of a self-assessment tax return. And for anyone who also does take out a loan for an access to higher education course, if you then go on to complete a degree level course that's eligible for student finance, such as a HNC or a foundation degree, then the advanced learner loan for the access course will then be written off, meaning that you actually don't have to repay any more of it. You will need to be a resident in the UK for the last 3 years in order to be eligible. However, if you are aged between 19 to 23 and you're studying your first level 3 qualification, your course fees will be remitted. So a number of different options there for you. So why you should study an access to HE course? Well, 98% of our students progress to university, and an access student is much more likely to stay and complete their degree in comparison to other types of level 3 courses. An access course is specifically designed to enable skill development in preparation for university and in your study skills. University can be really daunting if you don't actually have those underpinning skills, and by spending a year working on an access course, you develop all of those skills, such as how to conduct library research, using the internet more effectively, referencing your academic writing, developing your academic writing skills, so that when you get there, you've got all of those underpinning skills in order to be even more successful than you would not naturally be. And for many students who've maybe not had a traditional sixth form experience, the fear for many of studying is actually quite large, and thus those smaller class sizes on an access course ensure a much more personalised, confidence building start to your education. My staff, many of whom have actually studied an access course, went on to be incredibly successful, and obviously now we're engaging in careers where they get to help other students move on in their futures as well. So it really is a kind of a really good grounding and a really good underpinning for what you'll be doing in your future. So 5 reasons why you should choose an access course rather than a foundation year. Generally, it's about half the cost of studying for a full year at university. You'll also be learning alongside other mature students from all different kinds of backgrounds, and that will give you that kind of friendship support network that's incredibly important when it comes to education. Friends who are going through similar life experiences to yourself, kids at home, juggling work, and all of those other types of commitments is a really good opportunity to come. You'll also be building on your academic skills and your confidence levels. For many people, it's been a long time since they studied, and it can be quite daunting to go straight into university. Gaining your qualifications before applying to university also means that you have many more options than if you just go for a foundation year. So rather than making a decision maybe too quickly in terms of which career pathway you want to go down, having an access course will give you that really good grounding. And you'll also be receiving all of the extra support and advice that you're going to need in order to help you prepare for your degree. We'll also take you through how to apply for university and support you through that entire process as well. So there's a big support network that also sits behind us. So our students, I'm not going to read all of these to you because they kind of speak for themselves, but our students have said some amazing things about us, and I wanted to share them with you. So for example, Peter Clark there at the bottom, the course was an absolute lifeline to me. As a first year dental student, I can't thank the tutors enough. The access course had the potential to change people's lives and give the opportunity to become the person that you have the potential to be. So Peter studied on our medicine, dentistry and pharmacy course, and he's now about to go into his second year. I believe he's at Manchester University, if my memory is correct. So he's working well. Dental school. So here in the middle of this, we also have Christopher Hooker. So our access degree programme provides students not just a way in, but a competent strategy towards those 3 crucial years of a bachelor's degree. Christopher was one of our English writing and media students. And used the skills that he developed on his access course to ensure that that first year at university really was then that stepping stone into actually being incredibly successful. He's about to go into his 3rd year in directing, I believe it is, off the top of my head. And here we have Mary Smart at the bottom. Now, Mary would recommend our nursing and midwifery course. She didn't have much faith in herself at the start of the course and never really believed that she would go on to university to study nursing, but was encouraged to reach her potential. A brilliant step up if you've not studied in a while. Now, Mary had never progressed into sixth form. She was actually the first person within her family to go to university. She was a single parent of 4 children. And she has literally just finished her degree in nursing and midwifery and actually spent a little bit of time working on the front line in our recent battle against coronavirus. So our students go on to amazing and wonderful things. They really are changing our communities in which we work and are supporting people in a variety of different ways. So in order to get to university, there are many different ways that you could do that. An Access to Higher Education Diploma is just one of them. And you can see there it's comparable with A-levels and a level 3 BTEC qualification, which if you've got kind of older children, you may well know a little bit about yourselves. All three of those courses at level 3 will lead on to a variety of different choices at your university level. So level 4 onwards is considered to be university studies. So you've got Bachelor of Arts or Bachelor of Science honours degrees, but you also have HNCs, foundation degrees, and obviously then top-ups as well, should you want them. So it really does open a variety of different doors for you studying at level 3, and I really hope you take the opportunity to do that and change your life in a really positive way. Within the Manchester College, UCEN Manchester, we also have a variety of HE courses covering a variety of different fields, all of which look very favourably on access courses, and access courses are accepted across all universities, including UCEN Manchester. So we've got the Arden School, Theatre and Performing Arts, Business and Management, Computing, Construction, Creative Arts, Digital Media, Criminology and Social Justice, Health and Care Professions, Makeup Artistry and Special Effects, Manchester Film School, Sport and Exercise Science, and Teacher Education. So, do we have any questions?
Thanks for that, Michelle.
Thank you.
Very comprehensive. That's great. We do have quite a few questions.
Marvellous.
So I'm just going to start with a couple that we've had through from some of the people on the call. So, do you offer skills building as part of the course? Would you be able to elaborate on that one a little bit?
Absolutely. So an access to HE student is completing a number of different assignments, 18 in total across the academic year, and each of them is very much skill focused. So we will teach you about academic writing, and then the assignment will then be write an essay. We'll teach you about report writing. The assignment would then be to write a report on the content that you've just learnt about. And even on some of our courses that have an exam, such as medicine, dentistry and pharmacy, we will teach you those exam skills, and then we will then set the assignment and we'll do the exam. So you're never left on your own. We always look to develop those skills before we then actually try and test them.
Thanks, Michelle. That's great. We've got another one here. I'm not 19 until mid-September. Can I still apply for 2020?
2020, unfortunately not, and that's to kind of protect you and kind of what your career is. Many universities don't like students studying access courses at 18, which is what you would technically be. The reason being is they perceive this as students who have just studied, for example, a BTEC level 3 at sixth form, or they've studied A levels but unfortunately haven't achieved what they need to, and therefore they're then going to use the access course to bulk up that UCAS points application. I know that's incredibly difficult to hear, but in order for you to be the most successful you can be on an access course, waiting a year for September 2021 would probably actually be the better thing for you, because you could then use that year to develop your skills and kind of like get some life experience, which would then support an improved personal statement and UCAS application overall.
Thanks, Michelle. We've got another one here. How do you juggle work and doing a course such as midwifery?
Yeah, it's difficult. So to be very clear, our midwifery students, for example, aren't going out on placement, so they're not having to juggle work placement on top of everything else, but it is incredibly difficult. We have an entire support team that sit alongside all of our academic staff to kind of work with you to try and kind of see where we can find that balance. Our students are actively engaged in education for 12 hours every week. And some of that is actually completely and utterly independent of us. So we'll set tasks and ask you to complete that, the traditional homework type of idea, maybe from school. So, you know, if it suits better for you to do that at 3 o'clock on Sunday morning, then that's completely and utterly your choice. It is incredibly demanding, I'm not gonna lie, but then everything worth doing is always incredibly demanding, and I think all of our students would agree that even amongst all of this pandemic that we've been through, they have continued to work incredibly hard and juggle it all. But if you want it enough, you will find a way to try and make it balance. It's just about finding those 10 minutes here and there, that journey on the bus where you can maybe have a read of something online or even get out a textbook. It's about finding those little pockets of time and using them incredibly wisely.
Thanks, Michelle. I've got another one. Where do students go on to study? So I think that's about progression.
Yeah, so our students, if I said to you, Plymouth right the way up to Aberdeen, Edinburgh, and everything in between, that I'm literally not joking. So this academic year just gone, we've had 625 students progress to university, and they have literally travelled all across the country. Yes, the vast majority of them, because they are based in Manchester, jobs, families, etc., are going to our local universities. So that's UCEN Manchester, it's Manchester University, Manchester Met, Salford, Bolton, Edge Hill, UCLan. However, many are actually travelling a little bit further away, so they're still based in Manchester but are commutable. So that would be places like Chester, Liverpool, Sheffield, Hallam, for example. And of course, we do have many students who actually physically decide to leave Manchester and go and actually study elsewhere. And that is literally everything from Southampton and Plymouth right the way up to Aberdeen.
Fab. We've got another one here. What are the delivery methods? So is it all during the day, or are we looking at doing some of the course online, etc.? So I think that's probably a good point as well, to maybe have a little bit of a chat about what the plans are. Obviously, this September is going to be a bit different than usual, isn't it?
It is, most definitely. So obviously I've mentioned it, and you're very much aware that we are living in a time of hopefully the back end of the pandemic, but we're very conscious that our student population are people with children who maybe belong to our BA/ME community, and so therefore we are moving all of our provision online. Now, we have got optional face-to-face classes throughout the academic year, so if it suits and we're not in a mini lockdown, for example, and if you are able to gain access, because we're still going to be maintaining social distance, that option is there and is available for you. There are some elements, for example, on medicine, dentistry and pharmacy, that are also compulsory, and they will be split up across the week into very small cohorts of 6 or less students, so that we can actually get those compulsory units done. But everything else will be done online. We have mini online classrooms that a small group of you will be in, so you'll be your normal class as you would be physically in a building, but then when we want you to do group work, we've got separate little classrooms we can direct you to. Then we'll gather you all back together and do some feedback and so on and so forth. It's how we completed the back end of this academic year. So from March until just over a month ago, that's how we've worked with our existing students who we've just said goodbye to and had a mini graduation for. It's worked incredibly well. My staff developed a great number of skills very quickly, as did our students. Those students are obviously also progressing on to university in September, where they're actually also going to be working online in the vast majority of cases, apart from small seminars. So we've opted to go with a similar model in order to prepare you for university. One, potentially we might still be in this situation in the following September, but also to recognise that at any point in time we could actually have a mini lockdown, and we wanted all of our students to still be able to access all of the provision as they would do normally. There'd be nothing worse of being a class of 22 of you, for example, and half of you couldn't come because you were based in a local area that was having a mini lockdown. So that's the reason for that decision.
Great, thanks for that, Michelle. We've got a question now on the costs. So I know you mentioned about kind of how you might fund them with the access to the access loan.
Yeah.
But would you be able to go through kind of just the rough costs of what a course, or what's involved in a course, probably any course materials and things like that as well that might be relevant?
Absolutely. So a course has got two payments attached to it. So we have our tuition fee costs. That's approximately £3,500. It's a little bit less depending on some courses and a little bit more depending on, so for example, engineering is just a little bit more than that. So approximately £3,500, and we're looking at £140,000, good grief, not that much, £140 for our exam registration fees, and that money goes to our awarding body to process everything they need to. In terms of the cost of the course, in terms of course materials, we don't actually specify that you need to buy a particular book. We have no specialised equipment that we need. If you are deciding to do, for example, medicine, dentistry and pharmacy, all of those costs for all of those compulsory elements are incurred by us, and we use the tuition fee money in order to pay for those. Our expectation would be that, you know, you're able to get to college if you should you need to, and as part of that kind of compulsory element or even those optional courses, and that you have a fairly reliable Wi-Fi connection and internet and other such equipment. But other than that, kind of which probably many people already have. Other than that, there are no specific costs. All of our textbooks can be found online as well. Our libraries will be open, so you will be able to go and get a copy should you need or want to. But if not, then you can find all of those textbooks online as well. So no costs in that sense.
Thanks, Michelle. We've got another one about what makes a student more likely to stay at uni if they've done an Access course.
Yeah, so that's primarily about the skill development. So for example, an A-level student, and I say this as somebody who used to teach and manage on A-level courses and actually studied A-levels myself, never gets taught how to write a truly academic essay. So when it then comes to them having to write that at university, they're having to learn a whole new set of skills. Whereas an Access student is actually taught that in order to engage with their assignments. So we teach you about Harvard referencing and footnotes and other such things. So when they get to university and they're confronted with, right, I want you to write this essay, this is your first assignment, you'll see the 16 to 18-year-old students who'd studied at that level and haven't done an Access course do the whole, I don't know how to do it. And they spend a lot of time asking a lot of questions. They're investing a lot of energy into developing that skill. Whereas Access students are like, oh yeah, Harvard referencing, right, off we go. And they know exactly what to do and how to do it. And I think that gives them a little bit more confidence to actually engage with the actual academic material that they're being asked to cover.
Fab, that makes sense. We've got another question around, I'm looking at fitting a course around work. Are lesson times flexible, or can you watch at any time, or would it be better doing an evening version of the course if we work during the daytime?
So under normal circumstances, we would have an evening version of some of our day courses for many people who do work during the day. However, given the situation that we're now in and that I've just described, that we are going online, the way we've worked so far this academic year and the way we will continue to work next year is all of our sessions, a bit like today's, are recorded. So again, if you wanted to watch it at at 7 o'clock of an evening while you're eating your tea, or if you wanted to watch it at 2 o'clock in the morning as you finished a shift, you're more than welcome to. We obviously would prefer you to engage live with us because it means that you get to do group work and those types of things. But if that's not possible, there are ways that you can engage with all of that material outside of that traditional lesson time.
Yeah, and just off the back of that, how would students then get in touch with tutors and all those kinds of things for any extra support outside of that lesson time?
Absolutely. So each of my teachers has an email, which you're more than welcome to contact, and each of them we operate within Microsoft Teams, so you can always drop any of them a note to say, I just need 10 minutes of your time. We'll give you a telephone call back, obviously if it's within working hours, and we'll answer those emails as soon as they come in as well. We're very used to students maybe asking a question at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not saying all of my staff are up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm definitely not, but some of them maybe might be. So depending on who it is, you may actually get a response fairly quickly and promptly. But we have telephone, we have Skype, we have email, and we have Microsoft Teams and chat pages in there, and you also have your own support network. So we'll be asking you to set up a WhatsApp group for your course. So, at 2 o'clock in the morning, you might be asking a question. There might be somebody in the WhatsApp group themselves at 2 o'clock in the morning who may well be able to answer. So there's lots of different support mechanisms there for you, including all of our support staff as well.
Thanks, Michelle. Can I do a GCSE at the same time as my Access course?
So depending on what course it is, yes, that is possible. For example, however, if it's medicine, dentistry and pharmacy, all of the medical and dentistry schools require you to have your GCSEs before the point of application onto their university degree. So those students will be applying in October for their degrees. The rest of us will be applying towards Christmas. And they like students to already have all of their GCSEs in place. So for medicine, dentistry and pharmacy, no, you have to have your GCSEs in place beforehand. For other qualifications, yes, that is possible. I would suggest you check on the website for definite.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. And we've got another question here. Are there any particular courses that are difficult, or would you like to give advice, or that you would give advice on? And then any particular courses that UCEN rank best on? So I think, is there any probably maybe some of our more historic access courses that we've been running for a long time, which we know we've got some really good success on?
Yeah. So we are the second best provider in the country for providers that have got over 400 plus students. That puts us in a very small minority of providers in the country anyway, but actually that makes us incredibly good at what we do. As I say, many of my staff have actually studied an access course, so they know what it's like to be an access student and they know how to get the best out of our access students. In terms of an easier course or a harder course that's harder or different, I mean, to be frank, my background's in psychology and sociology, so I would find it incredibly difficult to be a medicine student, for example. No one course is easier or harder than any others. They are all level 3. It would be foolish of me to say that one was harder than another, because I think they're all hard in their own way and they all have their own difficulties. Some of the content, for example, within social and community work and social science is actually quite difficult and can be quite emotionally draining. Whereas some of the content that you maybe might cover in combined and medical science is actually incredibly technical. And maybe requires a different part of our brain in order to deal with that. So I think it's different things for different people. It's about finding the right course for the right career that you're wanting to progress onto, and understanding that it is a level 3 course. It is going to be hard. We're talking about, you know, an A-level student would study and a BTEC level 3 student would study their entire programme over 2 years, and access courses condensed into one. So we try and make it as easy as we can do. We try and take you down to the basics and build that skill and that knowledge back up over the course of delivery. But yeah, I'm not going to lie, I don't think there's one course that's more easy or more harder than anything else.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, isn't it? And it's obviously also going to make a big difference what background you're coming from. If it's just a case of changing kind of your direction, then you might have some of those skills already. But if it's starting from scratch, then obviously it's going to be a different level, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So I think you've already covered off one on will this year be online, so majority of that will be, but yes. How many days will I be in each week? So if you were a daytime student, and we were looking at September 2019, our students were in for a day and a half and then spent half a day doing some independent study as well. We are still working on 12 hours worth of delivery across that week, but that will be split up into a kind of a lecture, a bit like this. With a kind of chat bar open, you can ask questions along the way. We've then got mini classrooms that you can go and do some group work in and some tasks in. We've also got some independent study built into there as well, and directed study. So it's 12 hours, but it's split up in completely different ways. We're not spending 12 hours talking at you in the same way I am at the moment. That's far too much for anybody to endure across the week. And just to clarify, Michelle, does that include time allocated for self-directed study, or would that be on top of that? So there will be some self-directed study in amongst that. That normally makes up about 3 hours of a student's timetable, but obviously our students also then working on assignments and their own kind of thought processes and gathering ideas. You know, you might be doing the washing up and get inspired about a direction to take an assignment. So I can't mitigate about when you might be inspired over the washing up, for example. So we would expect students to be doing lots of work outside of that as well, but again at a time and a place that actually suits them. Yeah, and would you, I guess probably an extension of that, when we're talking about self-directed study and things like that, is the majority of it reading? Is it watching other videos? Is it quite mixed? Yeah, very much a mix. So for example, within psychology, and I say this as a psychology teacher, it is very much a mix of different things. So yes, a lot of reading, some of which we'll actually physically give you because we can't get access to those books, for example, or even online. Some of it is, you know, watch a video, watch a documentary. So, you know, some of it you maybe might want to sit down and kind of like not a family activity. I'm sure many
many 5-year-olds wouldn't necessarily be interested in some of the content, but kind of like, you know, you can sit down and watch it of an evening at a time and place that suits you. Or maybe even on the bus or something like that. Just be careful with some of the content. So it is very much a mix of things. It might even be, you know, go and organise yourselves, get into a group, nothing to do with us. You guys figure out how you're going to make it work, and work together collaboratively on something. So it's just a case of different things for different courses, and actually different units within those courses as well.
Great, thanks, Michelle. And we've got another question. Is there any support in applying for universities?
Absolutely. So our entire first term is taken up with the university process, including conversations around Student Finance England and how you apply for that. You apply generally around about March, April time. But also developing that personal statement so that when your application lands at university, they're actually kind of like, oh, I want to meet this person and do more with them and find out what this is about. And we're very skilled at writing and supporting that process. We obviously also write references that go along with that. That process is a little bit more condensed. Those students on medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, as I've said, they have to apply a little bit earlier in October. But for everybody else, that's kind of like that's a process that takes up that entire first term. So you're never going to be on your own making that application. That's
brilliant. That's really it's encouraging to hear as well, isn't it, that you'll have that support, which I think a lot of the time is probably something that some people miss out on if they've not been in school for a while and stuff like that. So in
terms of support, we've got a student mentor attached to our department who kind of like oversees things like housing issues and that type of thing, and that entire kind of like wider journey that factors really that can affect a student. We also have achievement tutors who are there for some one-to-one support, who can maybe just do a tweak on something just to kind of like give it that little bit of an edge to maybe secure that better mark or develop that personal statement further. You do have a personal tutor attached to each course as well. They're there to kind of like guide you and kind of like lead you and actually double check that you're okay along that process. We also have a very large guidance team that look after kind of career guidance, welfare, and also a kind of learning needs support team as well that also work with us. So we've got a large support team as well as all of the academic teachers, so there's always somebody.
Great, thanks Michelle. We've got another couple that have just come in. What date do access courses start? And then another one which I think starts off the same and then goes into a bit more on how do you apply for an advanced learner loan.
Okay, so an access course this academic year will be starting week commencing the 7th of September. We're going to have a week of induction. So we're going to introduce you to Microsoft Teams. You may well be familiar with that as part of your workplace, and that's absolutely grand. But for some students, they won't be. You'll get an opportunity to meet all of your curriculum staff, get an opportunity to start to make some of those friendships very early, and also an opportunity to meet all of our support services that I've just described as well. So that'll be our first week, and then we'll start formal teaching week commencing the 14th of September. In terms of applying for a learner loan, if you've already made your application into the college, you should have received a learner loan confirmation letter that contains all of the details about the course from the college. And if not, you maybe need to contact the college and get that chased. If you haven't yet applied, that will be provided to you at the point that you actually enrol. We're no longer taking applications for this September. That kind of cycle is now complete as we move into our enrolment phase. So we'll be opening up main enrolment, I believe, from week commencing I don't know when the week commencing is, I've lost my dates. It's the last week in August. So at that point in time, that will then be given to you and you'll then be able to make your application at that point as well. Many students do that. So don't worry, it's nothing unusual for us as a college. It's nothing unusual for student finance either. It's absolutely fine.
Okay, thanks for that, Michelle. That's really good. I've also just popped a link in the chat bar where you can read a little bit more about kind of some of the funding available as well, if you'd like to.
Thanks.
We've also got a question. Is there student support for students with disabilities or things like dyslexia?
Yeah, So that's part of that kind of learning needs kind of team. So that covers anything and everything, so it's absolutely fine. I'm sure we've worked with students in possibly a similar situation before, and we're well versed at working together with that team and with students to support students on their journey. That could be anything in particular in regards to dyslexia, is I don't know, changing the colour of a screen. And obviously, if we were in a building, maybe changing colours on handouts and that type of thing, many students find that helpful to actually the physicality of the space as well. So we're well versed in working together. Just be really honest on that application form if you have done that, or on your enrolment form, and we'll start to tie all of that up in that first week or so.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. I think that's a really good point, isn't it? The more information you give us, the better we can help you out, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And then I think if there's any more questions, I'm just going to say, please can you ask them, because we're coming to the end of the ones we've had through. So we've got one which seems to be our final one. When can Access students expect their timetables?
So Access students are provided with their timetable at the point of enrolment. So for example, if you enrol in if students have already applied, and we've already made them offers, we have some students who are actually being enrolled in this back end of this week, actually starting tomorrow, in fact, exciting, and they'll be receiving their timetables. If you enroll this as part of main enrolment, because you've not yet applied, you'll be given your timetable at that point of enrolment. Some of our courses, we have multiple groups, so some of our very popular courses have multiple groups, so we can always try and find one that suits you if you're applying for medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, nursing and midwifery, health and physiotherapy, business studies, combined and medical science and engineering. They're our most popular. We have many groups of all of those courses, so we can always try and find a timetable that better suits you.
Great. Well, that seems to be probably the last of our questions. I'm just going to have another quick flick back through and make sure we've answered them all. But if you do have any more questions, feel free to pop them in the chat now, and we will just answer them before we finish up the session. Is there anything else you feel like you'd like to mention before we finish up, Michelle?
Just to say, I would suggest that you do check our website if you haven't actually made an application, to double check on the requirements for each individual diploma. As I say, for some of them you can combine in a GCSE, but it's definitely worth you checking that out. I would also suggest as well that you also go and check university requirements. As I say, medicine in particular, like you to have all of your GCSEs in line before then. I think it'd be prudent for you to check what type of universities offer your courses in our local area if you want to, or even further afield, depending on what you want to do. But an Access course really can change your entire world and can inspire many people. Hopefully you remember Mary Smart from a couple of slides ago. As I say, she's literally just come to the end of her nursing and midwifery course at university, and actually spent part of this pandemic on the front line working with people and supporting them. So your opportunity to actually make a massive contribution is huge with this course.
Yeah, brilliant. It's very inspiring, isn't it? And really nice to see people taking control of their lives and
Absolutely.
Changing things that they can.
And inspiring their own families. I mean, Mary's daughter in particular used to write me notes on the bottom of her mum's homework. Yeah. Bless her.
That's lovely. It looks like we've just got one more question. Do GCSEs run out? I have one, but it's 10 years old. But the required grades, they've got the required grades for their GCSEs, but they're just 10 years old.
Doesn't matter. GCSEs can never be taken off you. So even if you've got O levels, yeah, it's absolutely fine. O levels are pre-GCSE. It's absolutely fine. They are still current. They still count. So not at all a problem. Yeah, a B is a B. It's fine.
Brilliant. Well, with that, I think we're going to finish up. So thank you for those who've joined us. It's been a really great session, and thanks, Michelle, for hosting this and giving us lots of information and answering those questions. It's been really useful.
Pleasure. Pleasure.
Yeah, if you are looking to make an application, you can do that now. You could just via our website, ucenmanchester.ac.uk, and you'll be able to search through our access provision, and like Michelle said, have a bit more of an explore about the entry requirements, anything else you might need to keep in mind, and then also probably do a bit of research on making sure that they are going to take you in the right direction of where you'd like to go long term. But yes, those applications are still open, so please apply. We're always keen to have more people, and like Michelle said, you'll be part of a really great cohort of people who are changing their lives, and the world around them.
Oh yes, lovely to work with you all, and thank you very much, Izzy and Amy, for looking after the chat bar and welcoming everybody. Very much appreciated.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Take care. Bye bye.